distracted.
It's okay.
Guess we should start.
Good morning. I'm Mandy Lee Garofalo. I use she, her pronouns, and I'd like to welcome you to BuxMont Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's multi-platform worship. We're moved by love. We share lifelong journeys of growth, wonder, and healing. Nurturing wholeness in society and spirit, creating a community of justice and compassion. I'd like to give a welcome to everyone joining us online and in person today, members, friends, and those who may be newcomers to our community this morning. If you are new to BuxMont and visiting us in person today, please stop by our visitor center in the front hallway near where you came in. There you can also make a name tag for yourself and find more information about Unitarian Universalism, BuxMont Fellowship, and upcoming events. If you'd like a hymnal or a printed order of service, those are available near the entrance to the sanctuary. If you are visiting us online or prefer digital methods, please email our office administrator, Beverly, to sign up for our email newsletter and to get connected to our congregation. You may also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at BuxMont UU. Each week in our service, we offer time for people to share a joy or sorrow from their lives by texting a phone number. That number is shared on the screen for everyone now and will be again later in the service. If you would like to see an order of service, details about upcoming services, and other ways to gather with our community, you can find that on the homepage of our website, www.buxmontuu.org. Whether you are a guest, friend, or member, we're glad you're a part of our worship service today. There is a lot happening at BuxMont, and we'd like to highlight these announcements in particular. BuxMont has raised $1,152.39 to be donated to our October split plate recipient, the Apartment Partners Project. Thank you to all who donated. Sorry, there's a bug. Okay, yes. BuxMont's annual craft fair is happening today, you may have seen, today after the service, and will return on December 3rd. If you are interested in joining our congregation as a member, our monthly UU and U conversation with Reverend Kevin and members of the membership committee will happen today at noon right here in the sanctuary. Join BuxMonters and Reverend Kevin for the Gun Violence Awareness Day Witness Walk in Doylestown. It begins this afternoon at 3 p.m. outside St. Paul Episcopal Church. More details can be found in the e-voice. And now we have a special announcement from one of our many committees that make up our community.
Hi there, I'm Laurie Brooks from the Safe Congregations Task Force, or SafeCon. Safety here is a surprisingly broad issue, encompassing medical emergencies, note the AED at the front door, having first aid kits and fire extinguishers throughout the building, nighttime lighting, and regular fire drills, which is how to evacuate the building for any reason. But providing safety is now more complicated. You know from the news there has been an increase in crimes against the LGBT. Hi there, I'm Laurie Brooks from the Safe Congregations Task Force, or SafeCon. Safety here is a surprisingly broad issue, encompassing medical emergencies, note the AED at the front door, having first aid kits and fire extinguishers throughout the building, nighttime lighting, and regular fire drills, which is how to evacuate the building for any reason. But providing safety is now more complicated. You know from the news there has been an increase in crimes against the LGBTQ+ community, people of color, and other people who we accept and embrace. That makes us a potential target. It is the reality of today's world, and it's better to be prepared rather than just hope it won't happen here. We've been ramping up a lot of security precautions. That includes more cameras and keeping the outside of the building free from obstructions to sight or places to hide. We're also taking a lot of faith-based security seminars to learn as much as possible. Please take upcoming classes we will be offering, including de-escalation of protesters, CPR, and Stop the Bleed, a class showing how to handle trauma injuries. All of these will be helpful in situations outside of BuxMont you might encounter. We need your help monitoring the building on Sunday mornings when we have the greatest number of people in attendance. The more people who volunteer, the less often you need to take a shift, and it's pretty easy. See Rick Anderson, who has been coordinating. If you are someone who has special skills which might be helpful in any kind of emergency, please let me know. We need to keep ourselves safe so we can continue to do important peace and justice work and provide a home accepting of many spiritual paths and faiths. Thank you. Hi there.
As we gather in our sanctuary, in our homes, or watch from mobile screens almost anywhere, we are all together. Those watching now on Sunday and those who may be watching months from now, we are joined together for worship across both space and time. This is a free, creedless, religious congregation in the discipline of truth and the spirit of universal kinship. We join together in a cooperative quest for religious and ethical values, seeking to apply these values to the development of character, enrichment of the spirit, and service to all. You are welcome here. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever the color of your skin or your country of origin, no matter your gender expression or gender identity, whatever your age, however you define family, wherever you are at this time, and whatever the source of your faith, you are welcome here.
This morning, as we do each time we gather, we kindle our Unitarian Universalist chalice. We do so today with words from Andrew C. Kennedy. We come to love a congregation, the traditions, the history, and especially the people associated with it. And through these people, young and old, known and unknown, we reach out, both backward into history and forward into the future, to link together the generations in this imperfect but blessed community of memory and hope. Please light your chalice at home. Our common chalice is now lit.
Good morning. My name is Matt Plummer. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm going to be leading you in hymns this morning, if I can get all my stuff together. So please rise in body and spirit, and we'll be singing number 349 in the gray hymnal, We Gather Together. We gather together in joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in the journey, confirming commitment and passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation. When bound to a human care and hope, then we are free. Thank you.
James, wrong side of the box, sweetie. All right, can you give it a little bit of space? Back up, honey. Okay. Oh, Nate, I know you're excited. So I'm sure everyone wants to open the Wonder Box. Can we raise hands? Yeah? All right. Gigi, why don't you come open it today? Oh, Nate, we're going to let Gigi have a turn, okay? What's in there? What are those? Socks? And what's that? A chalice? And candles? And cookies? And what are these? Seeds. What do all these things have in common? There are a lot of random things, huh? Does anyone know? No? They are all things that represent traditions. So, does anyone know what a tradition is? Yeah, Leo, do you do? What is a tradition?
Tradition is when some people... Do you need help? Yeah.
Anyone else have an idea? No? Okay. So a tradition is something that you do very regularly to mark a change or something exciting that's happening, and it is something that you usually do with people you love. So all of these items are representative of traditions. Some of them are traditions that everyone or lots of people might do, like, what are these? Cookies. Are they holiday cookies? Who bakes cookies around the holidays? Yeah, that's a very common tradition. And what do we do with seeds? Plant them. When do we normally plant seeds? In the ground. And when? In the springtime. Who plants seeds in the spring? Yeah, okay. So, what's this again? A chalice. When do we light chalices? Every Sunday, right? When we're here all together. That's a tradition that we all share here at BuxMont. And across a lot of different religions. Lots of people light candles and light chalices on Sunday mornings. All right, what's the deal with the socks, though, right? That's a weird one. That's a tradition in our family where Gigi and James get to pick out Christmas socks for their daddy every year. And that's a tradition that we have. So traditions can be something that we share across everyone, or it can be something that you do with just your family. Do you? What other traditions do you guys have? Do you have any traditions, Dylan?
I forget what it's called, but like me and Mandy used to do it when she was younger, when I was like at Nanny's house, and we had like a little candle for like.
An Advent wreath? Awesome. That's great. Who else would like to share a tradition? Doesn't just have to be the young at heart or the young at age. Yes.
Sharing birthdays with people you care about and love.
Ah, sharing birthdays. Who does things on their birthday with people that they love? Yeah? Does anyone blow out birthday cake candles? Yeah? Eat cake? Yeah? Nice. Any other traditions? We probably have time for one more. Yes, Gigi? No? Okay. Yeah, Miss Margaret?
So, because I work here on Christmas Eve, when my kids were little, we used to come to the early service at 5:30, and then we would all go eat dinner at the diner up the road.
Oh.
And then they would go home and do Christmas Eve without their mommy, and I would come back to work. But the thing is that to this day, we have to go to a diner somewhere on Christmas Eve.
Thank you. So it's amazing how all the little things that we do, even as small as lighting a candle, can become a tradition when you do it regularly enough. So I hope all of you enjoy all of your traditions that are starting this holiday season. Thank you.
As you go on your way, may you be filled with gladness. Go enjoy, go enjoy. May fortune bless your day with peace and loving kindness. Go in love, go in love. As you go on your way, may you be filled with gladness. Go enjoy, go enjoy. May fortune bless your day with peace and loving kindness. Go in love, go in love.
Our community continues to grow and thrive due to generous donations of both time and money. For the many ways that you contribute and how it sustains this fellowship, we are truly grateful. This morning's reading is adapted from Big Shoes to Fill by Rayla D. Matson. It baffles me how my kids are just fine running around with no shoes on. Rocks and dirt and sticks and grime all adhere to their feet. I wear my shoes from the time I wake up until the time I climb into bed at night. It drives me up the wall to see my kids barefoot, but I keep my mouth shut. I read articles about how it's not good to walk around the house with the shoes you wear outside, or how it's healthy to be without the constraints of the shoes on little feet. I've also read about diseases that find their way into your body and bloodstream through cuts and sores on your feet. I realize that both can be right or wrong. I refuse to walk around barefoot, but I also refuse to dictate whether or not my children do. My dad wore shoes. He grew up in rural Georgia, where shoes were a sign of wealth. The population of the town, 500. Most were farmers who couldn't afford shoes for all their children. My grandfather did well as a farmer. If he had enough money for all his children to wear shoes, they were going to wear them, and don't let him catch you without them on. That mentality stuck with my father. If he could afford to buy us shoes, then we best have them on. So I never take mine off, not because they're some type of status symbol, but because I'm used to it. In an odd way, it makes me feel closer to my dad, who passed away many years ago. I look at their bare feet and my shoes, and I remember that it's okay to let go. Just because something was a certain way for many years doesn't mean we have to continue. Traditions and habits can be changed or broken, and that's not always bad. It doesn't mean we didn't learn or like what we did in the past. It just means that we have moved on to something else, and that's okay too. I appreciate the path that my grandfather paved, but also recognize that I can add to his path in my own way and still honor the road he paved the way for.
I agree. Traditions are a part of us, all around us, and sometimes invisible to us unless we work to notice. Louise Fresco, a Dutch scientist whose career has been focused on globally sustainable food production, writes, "Food, in the end, in our own tradition, is something holy. It's not about nutrients and calories. It's about sharing. It's about honesty. It's about identity." This coming week is one infused with traditions or choices not to follow them. Thanksgiving in America is a major holiday, one we have been rewriting year after year as a nation and as individual families. Do you have stuffing for your Thanksgiving meal? If so, what kind? What about cranberries? Canned ones with ridges still visible and still in the shape of the can? Or is that an abhorrent thought at your table? Maybe in your family you need to have both to keep the peace. Maybe the turkey isn't the centerpiece of the meal for you. Maybe this is one of the holidays that you don't practice or have changed to be very much outside the norm from larger American tropes. What I do know is that food culture and the decisions around food matter a great deal to many people. Perhaps you, perhaps your spouse, or parent, or child, or longtime friends. I strangely don't have strong feelings about the meal or the food itself for this holiday. I've been part of large family meals, serving all of those traditional mains and sides, and smaller gatherings over the years. There has often been turkey, but I believe there have been years with duck or ham as well. I skip many of the traditional side dishes too when I have the chance. One of my favorite Thanksgivings was the one during the first year of the pandemic. It was just me and my husband, Justin, in our one-bedroom apartment. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything in particular. I think the dessert he made went awry. We didn't have a turkey. We did have cheesy potatoes based on his grandmother's recipe. And it was a simple day, tucked away from the need to travel or the need to navigate traditions of any kind, really. Yet we still attempted a special meal. It is just what you do on Thanksgiving, after all. I want to share part of an obituary that I first shared at BuxMont in 2018 during our first pre-Thanksgiving service together. That New York Times obituary by Karen Zarek is of Dorcas Riley, creator of the classic American green bean casserole, who died in 2018 at the age of 92. It takes just minutes to whip up and contains a mere 6 ingredients. But more than 6 decades after Dorcas B. Riley invented the classic dish of the green bean casserole, when she worked in the Campbell Soup Company test kitchen, it remains a staple of Thanksgiving Day dinners across the country. Mrs. Riley, who died on October 15, 2018, at a hospital in Camden, New Jersey, was among the first full-time employees of the Campbell's Home Economics Department, where she helped to create recipes printed on the labels of its products. Her husband, Thomas H. Riley, confirmed her death. She was 92. We worked in the kitchen with things that were most likely to be in most homes, Mrs. Riley once said. It's so easy, and it's not an expensive thing to make, too. Her recipe calls for mixing a can of cream of mushroom soup, cooked green beans, a bit of milk, soy sauce, and pepper. Pop it in the oven, toss some crunchy fried onions on top, and voila. The dish epitomizes the easy recipes that became popular in the 1950s, when companies promoted them to increase demands for their products. See, there's always capitalism in there somewhere. It was convenience with a touch of glamour, said Laura Shapiro, a culinary historian and author of Something from the Oven, a book about American cuisine in the 1950s. She added that the French's crispy fried onions that the recipe called for were the touch of genius in the dish. Mrs. Riley was a supervisor in 1955 when she first put together the recipe, originally called the green bean bake. She took a lot of pride in it, her husband said. She was delighted when anybody said they liked it, and almost everybody liked it. In interviews over the years, Mrs. Riley noted that the casserole's appeal was in its simplicity. It employed the popular Midwestern technique of using a creamy soup to bind a casserole. In my home state, we call that a hot dish, but mixed in new ingredients. It took off when Campbell's began printing the recipe on its cans of cream of mushroom soup. Mr. Riley said his wife had grown up in a family of cooks, which spurred her love of food. Even after spending all day in the test kitchen, she would cook at home as well, experimenting and using fresh ingredients. She did make a lot of soup, Mr. Riley said. In 2002, Campbell's donated the original recipe card for the green bean casserole, written by Mrs. Riley, to the National Inventors Hall of Fame. These days, fresh ingredients and complicated recipes are all the rage, and the creamy casseroles of the 1950s are decidedly out of fashion and sometimes derided. But because it became so ubiquitous at holidays, the green bean casserole endures, evoking powerful nostalgia for many Americans. If you have the love and memory of this, you will never think it's gross, Laura Shapiro said. You will think of it as the food of your past, and you will cherish it. What is one example of a food from your past that you cherish? It might be something Thanksgiving related, but it doesn't have to be. Let's take a few moments to share about our food traditions. It can be easy to let this topic run away with us as we recount memories, so take a moment before we begin to think of one example. I'm sure there are many others. What is one example of a food from your past that you cherish? If you are joining us online today, please share your reflection in the chat area on YouTube. In a moment, turn to one person near you, share your single story about a food you cherish, and then listen to the other person's story. I will ring a bell to begin, a second bell to signal when it's time to switch talkers, and a third bell when it's time to close our sharing, perhaps a fourth to actually draw us back. Let's begin. What is one example of a food of your past that you cherish? If you haven't switched yet, please switch. Switch to the other person. I need a louder bell, you're right. No, we're good. No, we're done now. And let's wrap up our time of sharing. Next time I will get a bigger bell. All right. And as we close our time of sharing, knowing that this would be a great way to continue a conversation during coffee hour in our craft fair. So, as I said earlier, When I think about childhood foods that were special to me, Thanksgiving foods are not my most cherished, though I enjoy them. My cherished food also comes from the side of a package, but not from soup. Mine is no-bake cocoa oatmeal cookies, which I think my mom got the recipe for from the side of the can of Quaker Oats. My mom would make these cookies during the holidays, but also at other times of year when it was cold outside, especially. They are indeed no-bake cookies, so you take what is a very gooey chocolate and oatmeal batter and put it out on wax paper while it is still warm, because when it cools, it solidifies and the cookies are formed. The cookies are fine, but they are not the magical part of this recipe. The magic of the whole thing is to get a small bowl of the batter while it is still hot. A cold glass of milk and that chocolatey oatmeal while curled up under blankets with Christmas lights twinkling and frigid winter weather outside is one of those quintessential memories of childhood for me. My mom would sometimes just suddenly make these cookies without notice or fanfare, and suddenly the house would smell amazing. Like the green bean casserole, this recipe is not about complication or the perfect presentation. It doesn't take hours to make happen. That, in fact, is part of the point. It's simple, comforting, and can be done on a whim. Traditions, when they do their job well, are about keeping that which sustains us. In the case of food-based traditions, it is literally about sustaining us over time, during the cold winter months and the warm summer months alike. Beyond food, traditions are infused in almost anything and everything. As we heard about during our Time for All Ages, can be as simple as a candle, in holiday cookies, in the traditions that we have around the holidays, in the gifts that we give year after year. Psalms, stories, or heirlooms are also passed down through families and communities. We should be aware of what tradition calls us to do, though. Not all things from the past need to be carried forward just because our ancestors did things that way. Adam Grant writes, "Too many people spend their lives being dutiful descendants instead of good ancestors. The responsibility of each generation is not to please their predecessors. It is to improve things for their offspring. It's more important to make your children proud than your parents proud." This is the wisdom shared by Rayla D. Matson in today's reading. There is a clear reason why wearing shoes is a source of pride between the generations of Rayla's family. And Rayla holds on to those stories while allowing the next generation to live a more shoe-free life. One can appreciate the path of our ancestors and pave our own way at the same time. How we balance tradition and novelty as we move through life is about figuring out how we want to live our lives authentically, and what we want to leave that next generation, whether they be our children or those we care about in the larger community. My personal goal is to pass on things that bring about connection and joy as much as possible, while limiting the habits and traditions that limit these things. As we move into the more intense holiday season, I hope you too will focus on the traditions that bring connection and let go of those which do not. And if you think the green bean casserole is gross, you don't have to have any. Tell them your minister said so.
I smacked the microphone.
I did too. Is the thing we're doing.
rain-and sun, and fields where scarlet poppies run, and all the ripples of the wheat are in the bread that I do eat. For when I sit at every meal and say a grace, I always feel that I am eating rain and sun, and fields where scarlet poppies run. The fields below, the skies above, enfold us in earth's arms of love. The clouds of mist, the endless sea, become a part of you and me. For when I sit at every meal and say a grace, I always feel that I am eating rain and sun, and fields where scarlet poppies run.
Let us now enter into a time of awareness within ourselves and connection beyond boundaries. Connection to one another, to that interdependent web of life, of which we are but one small thread. As we breathe in, we are connected. And as we breathe out, we are connected. As we center our breath and draw our attention to the present moment, we breathe together with these words adapted from Tamara Labach's Prayer of Purpose and Inner Fire. Great Spirit of love that dwells within us, flows through us and connects us. Let us remember the blessings of purpose that we have received throughout our lives. When the fire of our soul burned brightly, those moments of clarity when our direction felt in line with a greater purpose, when the doors of opportunity were easy to see and even easier to open. Those moments of clarity when even strangers felt like family. We ask this day to have that clarity of spirit come forth into our lives again with the power of a mighty wind, opening the horizons of our hearts and minds to that inner fire which burns inside us all. May we be inspired this day to sing out praise of this glorious life in language beyond the power of speech, in a language of action, so that our lives might be a beacon of justice and love, and the world might know hope through our story, our song, our steps taken. We ask this day that our inner fire burn brightly with compassion and courage and love, for whatever number of days ahead are still ours to claim. These and the many prayers of our hearts we pray now in the silence. As we breathe in, we are connected. As we breathe out, we are connected. May our minds create a vision of the world radical enough to be called holy. May our actions contain the promise of hope and commitment to justice. May our hearts remember that love is a power that resists all forms of fear. By our thoughts, by our actions, by our hearts, and by our very breath, may it be so.
As part of our caring outreach to one another, we set aside a few moments to note both the sorrows and the joys in our lives. In these moments of peace and reflection, we turn our attention to one another. We hold each and all in our compassionate thoughts and the prayers of our hearts. This morning, we are lighting candles to mark the important moments in our lives. Each candle adds to the collective light of this community, a place that also holds the memories of those who have gone before and anticipates those who have yet to arrive. To share the joy or sorrow you would like held by our caring community, text the number that is now on screen. Please include your name along with your sharing. It is the same number no matter how you join us today, and you can add it to your contacts for future weeks. I will read them aloud, and Mandy Lee will light a candle on your behalf. What is shared today will go out in our weekly caring notes for those who cannot be with us this morning. Please remember to include your first and last name with what you share. Martha Wrigley has joys. I'm grateful for safely returning to the USA after traveling to Egypt. I'm also grateful my son Hal accepted a job as chief veterinarian at Rock Hill Veterinary Associates in Bucks County. From Steve Campoli, I'm happy to be back here at BMUU. I'm sorry I was not able to contribute to the kitchen project as I had planned. My mother's final stage of dementia became the priority for the past 6 months. It concluded a few weeks ago with her passing. As hard as it was to see her go, it was also a blessing. I thank the caring committee for sending the fellowship's condolences. Tomorrow is Transgender Day of Remembrance, where we remember those in our community who lost their lives due to violence in the past year. From Zena. Matt Plummer is grateful that this past week, both sets of grandparents were able to take the kids for an evening so Megan and Matt could attend a professional networking event for Matt's job. It was a big success. And now we will light a final candle for all of the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken and deep within our hearts. Actually, we have one more. We'll do that again in a moment. From Julia Weber, my 14-year-old Milo found out recently that they were cast as Glinda in their school's production of The Wizard of Oz. So grateful for a terrific and welcoming theater program in our district. From Jeannie Kane. After a rough 10 days of Agnes suffering through a bout of pneumonia, the first antibiotic not working and causing an allergic reaction, then the second antibiotic finally working, we are thankful that her temperature is back to normal. It looks like she'll be back to school tomorrow. And now we will light another final candle for all of the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken and deep within our hearts. With words spoken and candles lit, we honor our joys and our sorrows, those shared this morning and the many, many more that exist beyond words. Through our time together, our relationships are deepened and our community made whole.
Please join us in body or spirit while I grab. Sorry, messed this up. Hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all each is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good. My words are different than yours. And make our own days glad. We got it. It's good.
Our chalice extinguishing words this morning are from Barbara Peskin. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of, and in spite of, the horizons of their vision, we too dream. Let us go remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery.
As our community departs from this service and participates in our annual craft fair, may we remember all who came before. May we imagine all who will come after. May we honor all who are present with us here and now. In our time together, we create this community, one of promise, one of commitment, one of traditions. In our time together, may each of us become a sanctuary for all we meet on the journey. May we go together now and return again.